The Thompson family, always fond of pets, decided to adopt a peculiar-looking kitten named Luna from a local shelter. While her unique features endeared her to the children, something seemed amiss. They decided to consult Dr. Leonard, a seasoned vet, just to be sure. As he carefully examined Luna, his expression grew solemn, and he took a deep breath before uttering an apologetic, "I am sorry." "That's it. We have to take her to the vet. This can't be normal," Clara said, a few days after they had adopted Luna. Their new cat was showing some very odd behavior, and they were getting worried about her. They owned many animals, including cats, but they had never seen something like this before. Richard, her husband, agreed. "Yes, I think something might be wrong. What if it's dangerous?" Right at that moment, Millie stormed into the room, tears streaming down her face. Something had happened to Luna. Her parents gasped when they heard what was going on, and they knew they needed to take action immediately. They were left with many questions, but they all knew one thing for sure. They never expected that adopting a kitten would lead to such shocking and chaotic events. What was wrong with Luna? Why was Millie crying like that? And what would the vet tell them? Clara and her husband Richard both grew up with many pets in the house when they were younger, and they absolutely loved it. So, when their own kids were old enough, they decided to get a bunch of animals for their own family too. Think dogs, cats, chickens, rabbits, and even donkeys. But that was not the end of it yet. No, their crazy story was just about to begin. You see, the kids were not satisfied yet. They wanted another cat, and they kept begging their mom and dad to take them to the shelter for days on end. Clara and Richard first told them, "No, we have enough animals as it is already, and besides, we don't have space for another cat." However, that was not true. The Thompson family had a huge backyard where all the animals could run around freely, and one more cat would definitely not make a big difference. So, one day, Clara and Richard finally gave in and took their kids, Jasper and Millie, to the shelter to find another cat. They had no idea that this would have such huge consequences for their lives. When they arrived at the shelter, Jasper and Millie were overwhelmed by all the poor animals in there. They had never been in a shelter before, and it certainly wasn't as happy and exciting as they had imagined. Especially now that they had seen the reality in the shelter, they were determined to leave with a new cat and give it a better life. They looked around for a bit, and both of them decided that it would be too difficult to pick just one cat. "Can't we take 4 or 5? We'll feed them and clean the litter box, and you won't have to do anything. We promise." They tried to convince their parents. However, the answer remained firm. "No, 1 is enough." "Oh, Jasper, look!" Millie suddenly gasped. "You guessed it." This was the moment when she first laid eyes on the cat they ended up adopting. Luna. "Oh my God, look at her ears. She's adorable, but is there something wrong with her?" Jasper asked, staring at the cat with wide eyes. He slowly reached out to pet it, and it immediately started purring. Jasper and Millie pet Luna for a while, and they soon decided that this was the cat they wanted to bring home. It looked quite remarkable, really, thanks to its huge ears. "Mom, Dad, this is the one. We want to take Luna home with us. Isn't she so cute? Look at her," they yelled out to their parents. Clara and Richard smiled, happy to see how they immediately got along so well. They finished up all the paperwork, and a couple of days later, they returned to the shelter to pick up Luna. It was time to bring her home. The kids were extremely excited, and they had not stopped talking about Luna ever since they first saw her. When they arrived home, they slowly and carefully introduced Luna to the rest of the animals. Luckily, they all accepted her right away. Only Ollie, one of their other cats, did not warm up to him immediately. However, they weren't worried about it. Ollie could be difficult sometimes, and he probably just needed a bit of time to get used to Luna. The kids took great care of Luna, and they made sure to feed her and play with her. Everything seemed perfect, but after a few days, they noticed something strange. All of their other cats were most active at night, but Luna was not. She didn't seem to move at all during the night, which was very odd for a cat. She liked sitting near lamps and windows, and nobody knew why. However, they did not think much of it, and thought she probably just needed some more time to adjust. But as the days went on, Luna kept sitting still. At some point, she even started running into things, and her new owners got very worried. Clara and Richard decided they would take her to the vet the next day. If there was something wrong with her, they wanted her to get the help she needed. The kids were very worried about her, especially Millie. She spent a lot of time with Luna and made sure she was doing well. She even took her outside into the garden when her friends came over to play. Her friends were all very interested in Luna. They all loved coming by the Thompsons' house anyway because of all the animals, but Luna was special to them. Richard assumed it had something to do with the cat's ears. He had to admit that she did look kind of funny. Her ears were almost bigger than her head. The kids played for hours until it was time to go home, and the Thompson family was getting ready to have dinner. The house smelled delicious, and Clara, Richard and Jasper were already sitting at the table, waiting for Millie to join them so they could eat. They waited and waited, but Millie just wouldn't show up. Finally, Clara got up and called for her, saying, "Millie, dinner is ready." Millie was still nowhere to be found. Then, suddenly, Jasper called out, There she is!" pointing a finger to the window leading to the garden. They all saw Millie sitting on the grass, and she seemed to be crying. "Wait, something is wrong." "Millie, are you all right?" her brother called out to her as he rushed over to her. Millie was very upset, and the tears were streaming down her face. "Millie, what happened? Are you hurt?" Jasper asked. She just shook her head, but did not say anything yet. Just then, their parents came into the garden as well, and they were worried about their daughter. "Darling, what's going on? Why are you crying?" Millie looked up at her family, and they saw that her lip was shivering. She finally called out, "Luna! Luna's gone! She's gone! I can't find her anywhere!" And she started crying again. Her parents looked surprised and told her, "Oh, honey, don't worry. She's probably just exploring the garden. I'm sure she'll turn up soon." Millie's face was a canvas of anguish. "I've searched everywhere," she sobbed. "Behind the sheds, in the barn, and even under the porch. She's not there." The weight of Luna's disappearance pressed heavily on her. Richard tried to meet her gaze, attempting to find a semblance of solace within her teary eyes. He had never seen his daughter this heartbroken. Clara knelt beside Millie, gently placing her hand on her daughter's shaking shoulder. "Darling," she whispered, her voice laden with maternal warmth. "Sometimes pets wander off, but they also have their ways of coming back to us." She tried to find the words that would bring her daughter comfort. "She'll find her way home, Millie. We'll all be here, waiting for her." Jasper, having seen enough of his sister's grief, took a deep breath. "Millie," he began hesitantly, "remember the time I lost my pet turtle, Sheldon?" He saw her nod slightly. "I thought he was gone for good, but 3 days later, I found him sunbathing on the porch." His recount made Millie chuckle through her tears. "Cats are way smarter than turtles. She'll be back." Richard wrapped his arm around his wife and children, pulling them into a tight embrace. "I remember when Sparky, the retriever we had before you kids were born, went missing," he began, his voice deep and calm. "We were devastated. But one morning, there he was, wagging his tail at the front door." He paused, squeezing Millie's hand. "They come back, love. Always." The Thompsons stood there, their 4 figures becoming one, under the dim light of the garden's lamppost. The chirping of crickets and the distant sounds of the night wrapped around them. Each took comfort in the warmth of the other, a beacon of hope in a trying moment. No words were needed. The hug was their collective promise that everything would be all right, no matter the outcome. Upon entering the dining room, a muted gloom had settled over the spread of untouched food, now grown cold. The table, usually a bustling hub of laughter and conversation, felt like a silent testament to the family's shared heartache. Every plate seemed to reflect the weight of their collective worry. No one felt the appetite, but they sat anyway, out of a routine that felt both comforting and foreign. Clara moved towards the kitchen, intent on reheating the meal. The soft hum of the microwave broke the heavy silence. Richard, to lift the spirits, began, "Remember the day Luna first walked into our lives? She climbed right into Millie's lap as if she knew she belonged with us." His stories brought fleeting smiles, intertwining the past with the present as they waited for warmth to return. Across the table, Millie's gaze was distant, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her napkin. Every so often, she'd cast a hopeful glance towards the window, as if willing Luna to appear. Her plate remained largely untouched, the colours of her food a blurred canvas against the storm of her emotions. The weight of her thoughts was evident in the quiet pull of her lips and the shadows under her eyes. Jasper, ever the one to break the silence, piped up, "Did everyone see that new treehouse Mr. Hanson is building next door?" The family entertained his efforts, speaking of neighbourhood affairs and upcoming events. But as the conversation flowed, it inevitably meandered back to feline adventures and Luna's mischiefs. Jasper's eyes conveyed an understanding. Some subjects were simply too immense to navigate around. The ticking of the wall clock marked the end of a meal that felt more like a vigil. Each bite had been taken with an undertone of hope and worry. They cleared the table, the clinking of cutlery echoing their shared apprehension. As the last dish was put away, the family lingered, bound by the silent agreement that dawn would bring renewed efforts and hopefully Luna's return. As the night drew in, the house settled into a deep silence, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the world outside. Millie, her face still stained with dried tears, murmured, "I don't want to sleep without Luna." Her bed, usually a sanctuary of dreams, felt cold and vast without the familiar purr of her beloved companion nestled by her side. Clara and Richard knelt by Millie's bedside, their faces etched with a blend of concern and compassion. "Sweetheart," Clara whispered, brushing Millie's hair gently. "We'll search every corner, every nook and cranny at first light, we promise." Richard added, "The morning may bring good news. Let's hold on to hope." Their words were a balm, but Millie's heart still ached with longing. The moonlight cast shifting patterns on Millie's ceiling as she lay restless, enveloped by the darkness of her room and her thoughts. Each time she closed her eyes, images of Luna would dance behind her lids. The silken feel of her fur, the soft nudge of her nose. Sleep was a distant land, and Millie felt trapped in the space between wakefulness and dreams. In the depth of the quiet night, Millie's ears pricked up. Was that? For a moment, hope surged as she thought she heard the faintest meow. Heart racing, she dashed to the window, scanning the shadows below. But the night only offered silence in return, and the weight of disappointment pressed down on her once more. Millie wrapped herself in her blankets, the fabric a meagre comfort against the cold expanse of the night. She found herself watching the sky, waiting for the first hint of dawn to break the horizon. With every passing hour, her wish grew stronger, for the comforting embrace of morning light and the joyous reunion with Luna. Hope, while fragile, remained her steadfast companion in the waiting. Still wrapped in the cocoon of her blankets, Millie's heart raced as she hurried to the window. The slight rustling of leaves and the distant sounds of the night had given her a glimmer of hope. Her breath fogged up the pain as she peered out, every fibre of her being hoping to catch a glimpse of Luna's familiar form. The moonlit garden lay quiet and serene below, every shadow sharply defined. Millie's eyes darted from one corner to the next, searching, hoping, praying. But Luna was nowhere to be seen. The flowers swayed gently, and the trees stood as silent sentinels, guarding the memories of countless days when Luna had frolicked among them. Defeated, Millie sank to the floor, the cold seeping through her nightgown. Was it just her imagination? Her yearning heart playing cruel tricks? Maybe she'd only dreamt of Luna's meow, a phantom sound born out of her deep longing. Distressed, she rested her forehead against the window pane, the line between reality and hope growing blurrier by the minute. Finding solace in company, Millie turned to Jasper, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It's my fault," she whispered shakily. I let Luna out, thinking she'd want some fresh air. Jasper's face softened as he pulled his sister close, the weight of her confession pressing down on them both, but the bond of sibling understanding offered a tentative comfort. The first rays of dawn began to creep over the horizon, painting the world in hues of soft orange and gold. As the darkness retreated, a renewed sense of hope filled the household. With the morning light came the promise of a fresh search, and the family rallied together, united in their mission to bring Luna home. In the golden wash of the morning, Millie and Jasper stood at the center of the park, their voices echoing with urgency. Their friends gathered around, faces etched with concern. Luna's missing, Millie began, fighting back tears. Jasper explained their efforts from the night before, each detail punctuated by the heavy weight of hope and desperation. As the tale unfolded, Adam shifted uneasily on the periphery, his face ashen. Clearing his throat, he stepped forward. I took Luna yesterday evening, he admitted, avoiding Millie's gaze. I wanted to show her to my little sister. She's always wanted to see Luna up close. The revelation hung heavily in the air, a mixture of shock and disbelief palpable among the group. Adam's voice trembled as he continued. I put her in a bag, thinking she'd be safe. But she got scared and managed to slip out when I wasn't looking. Regret laced every word, and he looked down, his eyes shimmering with guilt. I spent hours searching for her, but it was getting dark and I panicked, he finished, wringing his hands. The weight of Adam's revelation pressed down on Millie. She stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. How could you, Adam? She cried. Luna is not a toy to be shown off. Jasper placed a protective arm around his sister, but Millie's raw pain was evident. Betrayed by a friend, the weight of Luna's disappearance grew even heavier. Despite her seething anger and heartbreak, Millie took a deep breath, her resolve shining through. We need to find her. Please, she's more than just a pet to us. She's family. Looking around at the gathered friends, she implored, we need all the help we can get. Let's spread out and search. As the group dispersed, the search for Luna intensified, fueled by hope, desperation, and a shared determination. Word traveled fast, and by mid-morning, whispers of Luna's disappearance had rippled throughout the community. Cars pulled over and doors opened, releasing concerned faces and helping hands. The local park became an impromptu gathering point, with neighbours of all ages coming together, drawn by a shared goal: to bring Luna home. Under the calming guidance of Clara and Richard, the crowd was organised efficiently. With a map of the neighbourhood spread out on a picnic table, they delineated search zones, assigning teams to each. Richard handed out flyers with Luna's picture, while Clara distributed walkie-talkies to each group leader. Time is of the essence, Richard announced, but together, I believe we can find Luna. As the hours passed, reports trickled in. Mrs. Thompson from Elm Street thought she'd seen Luna dart across her backyard. A child from the adjacent neighbourhood recalled hearing a distinct meow from a nearby alley. While not definitive, these sightings fueled the searchers' hope, turning their steps quicker, their eyes keener. Every conceivable hiding spot was scrutinised. Bushes rustled as they were checked, garages and sheds were inspected, and basements were scoured. Children crawled under parked cars, adults climbed trees, and teenagers with flashlights peered into storm drains. The community's collective effort was a sight to behold, their determination palpable. The sun's descent painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, but the encroaching darkness did nothing to dampen spirits. Portable lamps were ignited, and the hum of generators filled the air. As stars began to dot the horizon, the neighbourhood was illuminated by a different kind of light, the unwavering determination of a community united in purpose. As the night deepened, Mr. Daniels, an elderly gentleman known for his pristine garden, decided to do one last check of his property. Moving slowly, he scanned his well-manicured flower beds. Then, amidst the roses, he spotted an unfamiliar feline form, its eyes reflecting the ambient light. Hesitating for only a moment, Mr. Daniels bent down and gently called out to the cat. Recognizing Luna from the flyers, he waved to some nearby searchers. "Over here!" he cried. Word quickly spread, and the crowd converged on his garden, hopeful murmurs filling the air. Millie, hearing the commotion, arrived breathlessly, her eyes wide. Spotting Luna nestled amidst the roses, she ran forward, tears streaming down her cheeks. Gently cradling Luna in her arms, her relief was palpable. "Luna, I missed you so much," she whispered, pressing her face to the cat's fur. The Thompsons gathered around, each taking a turn to stroke Luna's coat, their faces lit with joy. Richard knelt beside Millie, wrapping an arm around her, while Clara, her eyes moist, whispered words of gratitude to the stars above. Jasper grinned, ruffling Millie's hair. Together, they basked in the warmth of reunion. As Luna was bundled up in Millie's arms, the Thompsons turned to the crowd. Richard stepped forward, his voice choked with emotion. "We can't thank you all enough, especially you, Mr. Daniels." Mr. Daniels, with a modest nod, responded, "Just did my part." Gratitude permeated the air, a testament to the strength and unity of the community. With the house bathed in the soft glow of evening lights, the Thompsons felt a profound sense of relief. Luna, purring contentedly, settled on her favorite cushion. The gentle hum of family conversation and Luna's rhythmic purring created an ambience of tranquility. For the first time in days, the family could breathe easy, relishing in the simple joy of togetherness. The night began its descent, and Millie noticed Luna's increasing unease. Every shadow made the cat flinch, her eyes darting nervously. Millie scooped her up, whispering comforting words, and decided to keep Luna close. Wrapped in a soft blanket on Millie's bed, Luna found solace in her presence, her purrs a testament to the comfort she felt. The next morning, the Thompsons' routine revolved around preparing for Luna's vet appointment. Clara compiled a list of Luna's recent behaviours, while Richard checked the carrier. Millie, gently brushing Luna's coat, couldn't help but let her anxiety show. "I hope she's okay," she murmured, seeking reassurance from her parents. In the quiet of their room, Jasper approached Millie, an air of seriousness about him. "Have you noticed Luna acting different at night?" he began. Millie nodded slowly. "Yes, it's like she's scared of the dark." The two exchanged puzzled looks, their concern deepening. What was causing their beloved cat's newfound fear? The earliest light of dawn painted the sky, casting a golden hue across the Thompson household. Today was the day they'd hopefully uncover the mystery behind Luna's behaviour. With the promise of answers, the family readied themselves, anticipation evident in their movements. The vet's office awaited, and with it, clarity about Luna's well-being. The Thompsons' car pulled into the familiar parking lot of the Willowbrook Vet Clinic. Stepping out, the weight of their concern was palpable. Millie clutched Luna's carrier close, her face a mask of apprehension. Richard offered a reassuring hand on her shoulder, while Clara checked the time, taking deep breaths to calm her racing heart. Inside the clinic, the family was greeted by Dr. Hawkins, a seasoned veterinarian with years of experience. He took one look at Luna and remarked, "She's a beautiful Oriental Shorthair, isn't she?" The Thompsons nodded, surprised at his quick identification. Luna, with her sleek coat and distinctive almond-shaped eyes, truly was a sight to behold. With Luna carefully examined, the family waited in an adjoining room. The minutes felt like hours. Every tick of the clock and every distant sound from the examination room heightened their anxiety. Millie wrung her hands, while Jasper distractedly flipped through a pet magazine. Clara and Richard exchanged worried glances, hoping for positive news. Finally, Dr. Hawkins returned, his demeanour calm and measured. "Luna," he began, "is indeed an Oriental Shorthair, a beautiful breed, but prone to certain eye conditions." Pausing for a moment, he continued, "She seems to have developed an eye disease, common among this breed, causing her to become night blind. The room filled with a collective gasp as the family absorbed the news. The weight of the revelation hung heavily in the room. Millie, tears in her eyes, hugged Luna's carrier close. "So, she's scared of the dark because she can't see?" she whispered. Richard squeezed her shoulder, his face a mix of relief and worry. Clara sighed, grateful for the diagnosis, but concerned about the road ahead. Jasper, always the optimist, chimed in, "We'll get through this, together." In light of Dr. Hawkins's diagnosis, many of Luna's past behaviours became clearer to the Thompsons. The hesitance at dusk, her avoidance of dimly lit areas, and the anxiety she showed during nighttime all made sense now. "It's her night blindness," Clara realised aloud, her voice tinged with empathy. Richard added, "All those times we thought she was just being finicky." The family shared a moment of understanding, seeing Luna through new eyes. The Thompson home underwent a transformation. Well-lit pathways were established, ensuring Luna could navigate safely after sunset. Nightlights were strategically placed in hallways and rooms, and reflective toys were introduced, maximising her playtime. The garden, Luna's favourite spot, received a gentle glow from solar lights, allowing her to enjoy her outdoor excursions even in the evening. Millie's bond with Luna deepened further as she took on the role of Luna's main caregiver. She researched the specific needs of Oriental shorthairs with night blindness, poring over articles and connecting with online groups. Every day, she'd share new findings with her family, like specialised cat foods or exercises to boost Luna's confidence. Her commitment to Luna's well-being was unwavering. As the weeks passed, the Thompsons not only adjusted to Luna's condition, but grew to appreciate her unique qualities even more. They marvelled at her heightened sense of hearing and how she'd purr contentedly when in familiar, well-lit spaces. Each family member had their special moments with Luna, embracing her quirks and celebrating her individuality. "She's not like any other cat, and that's what makes her special," Jasper declared one day. Luna's future, under the loving care of the Thompsons, was filled with promise. While she had her limitations, the bond she shared with her family was unbreakable. Every day brought new challenges, but also joyous moments and precious memories. Luna's story, a tale of resilience and unwavering love, was a testament to the fact that with understanding and care, any obstacle could be overcome.